Hi, I'm Gonzalez, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to discuss something I've been discussing lately, and this is the future of our processed foods. And this is kind of processed foods 2.0. And what I want to get into is that recently I've been releasing a few shorts, and I had some feedback, and a lot of it was positive. But I do want to discuss some of the negative. Now, before we even get into that, I've been in this industry for over 35 years, and I've seen it. I've traveled all over the country, and I mentioned this plenty of times before. And in 35 years, you've seen changes, not just growing up in the 70s and the 80s and seeing what food was like then, and then getting into the food industry at the beginning of the 90s and seeing how fish, protein from beef and chicken and vegetables have changed, and processed foods have changed. And we all look at it as marketing and creativity and, something new, but that's not what it is. And I want everyone to take a full understanding of what we're eating, what we're getting into, and why. And because I'm in the industry, it kind of helps me understand. Now, over 35 years, I was so involved into climbing up that ladder and learning, from a line cook to a sous chef to an executive chef to a corporate chef, and then to a DM, district manager, to a VP, and then to a CEO of a culinary school. Now, this takes its toll. And in the last year, I finally woke up and just said to myself, what have I been doing? I had a goal one time in the early, I would say 80s. I was 13 years old to become a chef. And I wanted to climb up that ladder. And then I realized after becoming a chef, I wanted more. I wanted to learn the P&L. I wanted to learn HR. I wanted to learn more about the industry. And I learned more about culture and people and how to treat people and how to respect them more in our industry, because our industry is a very tough industry to be in. And to have those people that wait on you and wash your dishes and every day a thankless job for very little pay. I remember starting in the industry making $2.20 an hour, and I think back then, okay, it's lucky if I made $8 a day. Now, we're trying to refine the industry, but there's such a shortage of staff members. But forget about the restaurants and the cooks and the wait staff and all those issues with what you deal with every day when you go out to eat. What does the future look like for us? Well, the future is not small businesses in the restaurant. I believe in New York alone, 3,000 restaurants open a year and 3,000 restaurants shut a year. Corporate chains, buying power, procurement. It all ties into this processed food chain that we're in. And you would say, I don't understand. Well, the rebates, the corporate buying, and it's like a big pyramid, a family tree. It starts with the farmers. It starts with the seeds. It starts with the soil. And then it goes on and on and on. And you may just say, I'm buying this bag of chips with all this sodium and salt and fried potato chips, and I'm putting these high calories into my body. It's more than that. It's the oil that is cooked in. It's the corn that is being developed. And I'm saying developed because before it's grown, it's a GMO. So to get into what I'm talking about, I've changed my idealism, my life to this right now. And this is my main focus. And I've been focusing on this every single day for the last year. And I research it every day. I dream about it. I meet people every day in the industry, and I find these small people that are into farming industry and doing the right thing and sustainable practices. But it's a very tough industry because you can't beat corporate. You can't beat the institutions. So how do we get around this? Now, what I'm about to tell you and what I'm about to talk about is not something that I'm being negative on. It's eye-opening. It's paying attention. And I know that many of you do, and there's many of us out there that want to go and exercise and go to the gym every day and do the right thing, eat healthy. But it's literally almost impossible these days. to run that straight path, because again, 80% of what you eat dictates how you feel, how healthy you are. The 40% obesity in the United States right now. Now, you go to the gym all you want, it doesn't matter. I've said this many times. I mean, it matters, but if you're going to eat unhealthy, if you're going to eat processed foods every day, but many of us don't even know what it is. And that's why the negative comments on some of these shorts of the processed foods, that's my focus. A few people say, hey, why don't you change it up? Do something different. No, I'm not going to. I want to stay the path, stay focused, and talk about these items that people are not paying attention to. As I said before, if you can't pronounce it, you don't know what it is, you shouldn't be eating it. But do you even know what you're eating? Do you even read the back of the packages? Do you realize how many calories are in everything? And it's just not the calories, it's the chemicals. And what people don't seem to understand, and it's the same thing with overeating and the sugars, or the fructose, should I say, the sodium, it sends a message to your brain. Your brain dictates how you eat. It tells you when you need more food, you have to eat more. You're still hungry. Your brain is being trained with these processed foods. Believe it or not. You could say I'm crazy, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Look it up. Do your own research. Don't tell me that I don't know what I'm doing, that it's fake. The other day I posted mac and cheese, and it has phthalates, okay, which are pieces of plastic or processing plastic. Now, if you go to the back of your mac and cheese box, it tells you that that's what it has. So don't tell me that it's fake. Don't tell me that this isn't real, truthful, because it is. I do my research and I do not lie about any of this stuff. So, with all this being said, once you grow the corn, the wheat, all the food that we grow in our farms, okay, we're mass feeding, we're mass creating produce, okay? So I can't even say that eating fresh produce is the better way to go. It is a better way, but with all the pesticides, with the GMOs. And once you grow a farm with GMOs, you can never plant regular seeds. Keep in mind, remember, in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, all the way back since we know, we had seeds, lemons, oranges, grapes, watermelons. Everything had seeds. How do you reproduce? How do you regrow? How do we survive? Now, all of a sudden, everything we eat has no seeds in it. Think about it. It's common sense. It's not good to eat food without seeds. It's not the way of life. It wasn't the process of life in the beginning. You know, we took the seeds and we replanted them. And that's how we survived for thousands and thousands of years. And all of a sudden, we don't need them. And I remember in the 90s when we had seedless watermelon and grapes, and everyone's happy because now we don't have to spit the seeds out. That wasn't a good thing. So let's get back to processed foods and everything that we're eating. I mean, sometimes, like I said, we're trying to grow things out of petri dishes, beef and chicken, and that cannot be good for you. If you're a plant-based and you're saying, wow, I'm eating a plant-based burger, that is processed foods. Again, a lot of the stuff that they're creating in the processing plants is made so that it lasts longer. The shelf life is longer. Now, remember, there's more profitability with things lasting longer. If you make it last 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Now, remember, the longer it lasts, the longer shelf life, so they don't have to rotate inventory. They don't have to dump out food that they don't eat or that is unsold. This is a huge and a major problem in the United States. Other countries have banned certain products, certain chemicals in the food. We have not yet, because big corporations. And you can't just say that it's the Hunts of the world or the Del Montes, because there's a corporation that owns them. And they're the ones making the money. Again, if we can make it for cheaper and it can last longer, that's where the money's at. and this is all about money. Now we have to turn this around so that we can eat healthier. And one day at a time, 1% at a time, it makes a difference if we can make this change. I'm headed to the Midwest to look for some land, as I would love to move and buy a few acres. I already grow my own vegetables and I see a difference. There's no wax, there's no pesticides on it. I have a soap solution that I can spray, and I cultivate my own soil. And there is such a big difference in eating an apple and a piece of zucchini that's not sprayed with anything or wax, or my potatoes come out naturally and they're not sprayed with a food coloring. This is something that I feel that we have to go back to the 18 and 1700s where we grew our own food. And I know that's almost impossible these days. I know a lot of this stuff isn't realistic, but we're moving into a future that is so unhealthy that we're going to become sicker and sicker. And it's already happening. They're just not talking about it. You're not going to see it in the news. When you tell people that there's an increase of cancer and they don't know why, well, look at the food that we eat. Look at the water we're drinking with fluoride. Everything you do seems to be cancerous. We have more autism, more diseases, more problems than ever. And what do? We turn right back to medication and pills because that's just a way to prolong life. Actually, the real way to prolong life is to eat healthier, eat unprocessed foods, eat foods without chemicals. You can literally puree your strawberries and put them back on your crops. And it already has enough pesticides in that to absorb it that you wouldn't have to spray your crops. It's a sad thing, and it's sad to believe that we arrived here. Now, I've seen a change. I've seen a change in the foods. I've seen a change in the fats and the oils and what we eat when we go out to a fast food restaurant. The burgers are not the same. But when you think about it, you're thinking, okay, I'm eating unhealthy. I'm eating a burger. Okay, this is just a burger. It's not a big deal. The bun that is processed by pesticides from the wheat, the bleached flour, the butter they're putting on it is not real, has trans fat inside of it. And then the stabilizer, the food starch, the sodium, the sugars in that bun. It's not just one little thing. Then you're going to go on to the meat, which is not 100% ground beef. And if you tasted any of those meats, nobody's getting food poisoning anymore. There's so much enriched products and sodium in it and chemicals and pink slime into that ground beef patty. It's not like before where they literally ground their own beef and made a patty and grilled it and you knew what was in it. Then you're going to get to the lettuce and tomatoes. And those were grown with GMOs and pesticides. Then you're going to get to the sauce, whether it's a mayo based or some kind of base, chemicals, stabilizers, trans fats, seed oil to make that mayo. It's one thing after another. Okay, I'm not wrong. Look it up. We have an issue. So think about all those foods that you're eating every single day that you're putting into your body. What can we do? What are the changes that we can make? One step at a time. Buy fresh. Think about it. Consult somebody. You can email me on my website and I'll send you a list and suggestions of what to eat and how to eat better. But again, everything from the salt you buy, you have to understand there's aluminum. A lot of it isn't real salt. It's flaked. The black pepper even has additives to it. It doesn't always tell you on the back of the package. It just says salt. And again, like I mentioned before, where's that salt coming from? Is it coming from a part of the ocean or the caves where there's lots of mercury? You have to ask yourself, you have to question yourself. Fish used to have in the early 90s and 80s a whole different body structure, so much different flavor. Salmon would swim upstream in the freshness. You would get Norwegian, Atlantic, Russian. You would have all these names for these types of salmons, and now it's just farm raised or wild farm raised. And when you grill it, it falls apart. It doesn't have the same body structure. Halibut is dry. Doesn't matter how you cook it, it's dry. And where's all those other fishes? Opa, opaka, orange roughy, John Dory, and the sea bass that we get in, it doesn't even taste like sea bass anymore. So there is a big change in the food that we eat. You know, the 2-pound chicken breasts. I don't remember growing up on chicken breasts that were that huge that you had to slice them. We'd get 4 or 5 ounces or 5-ounce chicken breasts, and everyone would have a chicken breast for dinner. Now you get these random chicken breasts, all different variety of sizes. Why? Because they're injected. Okay. Some of them are injected with sodium, artificial flavors. Okay. You have all these chemicals injected to them, and they last longer. Before, you would smell chicken, you knew it was going rotten. Now you have it in the fridge for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. As I mentioned before, when bacteria grows, especially on poultry, it can grow within the first, the second, the third, or fourth day, and it just triples and triples after that. It can start off at 200 parts per centimeter of bacteria and grow to 2 million or 200 million for that matter. And that's how you get bacteria. We have so much bacteria in us, and we have so many chemicals keeping the bacteria in our foods that if you went somewhere that had absolutely no bacteria, you would get sick because you need that bacteria. Your body's become so immune to the bacteria. So let me just list off a few things here that I've been writing up and looking at. Some of the top items that we should pay attention to and be careful. You know, when buying oils, you know, stuff like corn oil, soybean oil, palm oil, it's blasted with the hydrogen, okay, and turned into a solid, and which becomes a trans fat. So a lot of places say there's no trans fat. Margarine says on the package, no trans fat. But if you read the chemical ingredient list, there are words in there which means trans fat. It's manipulation with the wording. So if you tell me that I'm crazy and that I'm wrong, I'm not wrong. It's exactly what it says. You have to look up some of these words. And again, as I mentioned, it says artificial colors, artificial flavors, natural flavors, or no added sodium, no added sugar. Okay. But that doesn't mean that there's not any in it. No added amount to how much parts into that item there. Okay. These trans fats actually increase the risk of blood clots and heart attacks. So you need to avoid these oils. Okay. And again, if you do your research, you're going to find out. I've been doing this every single day. I can walk down the aisle and pick up so many different things: granola bars, cookies, cup of noodles. Canned goods are some of the worst things for you. The amount of sodium in a canned soup is about 39% on the average. And somebody told me, well, an enriched product is good for you. It has vitamins and nutrients, and it's pasta, and pasta is good for you. Well, no, pasta's not good for you. It's bleached flour. Okay, it's an enriched product. And by the way, have you ever made chicken noodle soup or something with noodles, and it's sat in the broth and you put it in the refrigerator, and then yes, the next day the broth and the noodles absorbed all the broth, so the noodles are extra big. Have you ever noticed in canned products with noodles, they never expand? Not 100% noodles. So common sense does tell you. Um, Again, white flour, rice, pasta, and bread, the things that we used to love that were homemade, especially, listen, if they were not sprayed, if they were not bleached, and they were organic, no pesticides. And organic is a fine term of what is organic these days, what isn't. I mean, again, we recently exposed Whole Foods and their packaging from 365 comes from China and organic. We don't even know what that is and how they're making this organic. We have no idea, but it's happening. So, you know, with enriched products, whole grain refined, the nutrients are actually sucked out to extend the shelf life. So people are telling me, well, enriched products are good for you. They have vitamins and nutrients. No, you know, in order for them to make things last longer, they gotta take something out and put something back in. Again, the key here, as I mentioned before, is longer shelf life. High fructose corn syrups, okay? Um, fructose is a sugar style substitute. So if we're making fruit juices, certain canned beverages that have sugar in it, anything that has sugar, if they're not using regular glucose, regular sugars, fructose actually goes to your gut. It goes to your liver, and that's the only place it goes, and it damages it. And that's everything you look at has fructose, fructose, fructose. At least with regular sugar and glucose, it goes through your bloodstream. I'm not saying it's healthier. It's healthy. It's more healthier, I would say, than fructose. I would get rid of any fructose products. Artificial sweeteners. Now, this is really, really sad because everyone says, you know what? I'm going to stop drinking regular sodas because I'm trying to go on a diet. So I'm going to start drinking diet sodas. I'm going to put diet sugar into my coffee. All these sugar substitutes have been coming out. And the word aspartame, it's worse for you to have these sweeteners, these artificial sweeteners, than to have a regular package of sugar. You're better off drinking regular soda. You're not doing better. Yes, there's less calories, okay? But the chemicals that are going into these sweeteners are bad for you, extremely bad for you. We have to look at sodium nitrates. Oh, there's a big one. I love deli. I love hot dogs. I loved them for years. I grew up on bologna. Many of us did in the old days. I mean, especially if you had no money and you're poor. I mean, if you look at 1929 and the Great Depression, you know, they could barely eat, you know. But so even some of the poor people, they would go to the store and get a slice of bologna. Bologna was in, around for generations, you know. Every decade had their bologna. But these are filled with nitrates. They're meat fillers. It's not just, and sodium nitrates, it's a preservative. It's a bad preservative. Pink curing salts. And again, they add so much salt to it that your brain tells you you're more hungry. I mean, that's why you don't want a 6-inch sub. You want a 12-inch. You know, you want all the fillings, and you don't want the 2-ounce deli meats. You want to make sure you get 8 ounces. You want the New York style. You want those big giant New York delis in Brooklyn. And it's bad for you. Those are extremely bad for you. As I mentioned before, when I was in culinary school, we had, and we called it cell rolls. It was a pink curing salt. And for every, you know, 20, 40, 50 pounds, you would dump a tablespoon in it. But if you ate it pure, you would die, kill you. And this is into your turkey, your hams, your roast beef, your salami, pastrami, corned beef, hot dogs. It's hard not to eat those because they're so good, but they are so filled with different types of sodium. Okay. They have words for sodium that I can't even pronounce. Okay. Sodium nitrates, sodium dioxide, so many different types of chemicals of sodium, preservatives that they put in your food to make you hungry, to make you thirsty. They put sodium into your water so you can drink more. And that's the bottled water, by the way. Blue, green, red, and yellow. Okay. I keep telling everyone this. When you buy those Otter Pops, when you buy these thirst aids, these sports drinks, and they have all these different colors, I never understood it. I knew from, I mean, it's just always common sense. We all know that we shouldn't, but everyone says, oh, let's not drink the red one because it's number 10 red dye or whatever the number is. But everyone says, okay, I'll drink the yellow, I'll drink the orange, I'll drink the blue, I'll drink the green. They're all the same. It's not red. They're artificially. How do you think you get a natural drink and have it colored? Even the white one, you think, well, this is clear. No, there's coloring in it to make that clear. It's a clear white. It's almost like a cloud white. Again, All these artificial colors, artificial flavors, they're unnatural. If it's not natural, you shouldn't be putting it into your body. You shouldn't be putting it into your system. And they're high in fructose again. So when you're playing football, when you're basketball, any sports event, running, you're drinking this. It has sodium, it has sugar, so it's lifting you up. It's refreshing. But again, anything that lifts you up, you're borrowing it. It's like these energy drinks. You're borrowing energy. You're basically borrowing it, but you have to repay it back later on. That's when you burn out. Nothing's for free. But again, you're putting all these colors into you. They actually go to your bladder, your kidney, and they cause brain cancer. And I bet you a lot of people don't understand this or know this. MSG, it's a flavor enhancer. And a lot of this is used in processed foods. It gives it that special flavor, that imitation cheese flavor. It enhances flavor. When I was going to culinary school, they showed us how to use it. And basically what we'd do would cook some snow peas just in some light butter and a pinch of salt. Tasted really good. They were fresh, nice and sweet. And then we sauteed some snow peas with MSG, sodium glutamate. And boy, what an amazing dish. It knocked it out of the ballpark. And most of your Asian food restaurants, they dust MSG. I mean, they carry it by the bags, 10, 15, 20-pound bags. And they just have to dust a little bit when they're sauteing. That's why the food tastes so good. And that's why later on, you're hungry again. It's the amount of sodium and these flavors because you're eating it and it tastes so good. So you're eating more in an abundance. And that's why they feed you mounds of fried rice and noodles and vegetables and all. You can order 5 or 6 dishes when you should be eating 12 ounces. And then by the time you're done and walked out of that restaurant, you probably ate 2 pounds of food. And you're full and you can't move anymore. And then all of a sudden, those chemicals go to your brain and tells you you're hungry again. And realistically, shouldn't be. These are just samples. And I can just go on and on about crackers and potato chips, especially potato chips. And that's what people don't understand. Potato chips, corn is grown into the ground. It's made with oil, cornstarch, cornmeal, polenta flour, hominy you get from it all, from corn. And you're creating so many different things with corn. You're feeding the animals with corn, cows, cattle. And so from your meat to your cornbread to your, if you have corn pancakes, so many different items out there. And it's just, again, that pyramid of food to corn oil. So basically you can get the corn and get corn oil, make a corn chip that has GMOs and pesticides and fry it into that chemical oil and then add sodium to it and package it. It's not just one way of eating toxic chemicals when you're eating that one chip, but it comes at you 5 to 10 different ways. And it's the same thing with all canned goods. When you're thinking about the tomato farmer that's farming for ketchup, tomato paste, tomatoes diced in juice, tomato puree, tomato sauce, that one farm has to keep growing in abundance. Before, everything was seasonal. You get it in the summer. We would ship from other countries, the melons, the strawberries. I remember growing up, and strawberries in the winter would come from New Zealand or Australia. A lot of the melons would come from South America. And so we had to wait till summer to get melons because the other stuff was just too hard because they pick them too early. So we wouldn't have berries year round. Now we have them year round. And that's the same thing with these crops, these greenhouses. What they're doing is mass producing with GMOs and pesticides. And they just keep growing year round, all year round. I mean, now we're getting peaches in January and plums. I know that's not right. I know that was for decades and decades, we couldn't get that. We couldn't get those items. And now we can get them because they grew once a year, right at the same time between spring and summer. So now, as I'm mentioning, you have those tomato farmers with the pesticides and the crops and the soil full of GMOs. Then they send it off to Hunt's or Del Monte, and then they make those tomato products. Then they have to can them up. Everything in canned goods needs some kind of chemical and stabilizer and sodium and rich products to keep them a long shelf life. And then you go home and you put it into your food. This is our system. And if you notice, we're creating more flavors of chips, more flavors of mac and cheese, from Cheeto flavor to lime and lemon, and it just keeps expanding. And our marketing on social media and the Super Bowl is marketing towards all processed products. If it's not beer, it's potato chips, everything we market towards. It's not about sustainable, healthy, fresh fruit, fresh produce, organic. None. What do you see that marketing? You'll see it from somebody who's passionate about it, who's working on that. So as you see my shorts come up, and I'm going to put up plenty of them out there, little by little, I'll explain some of these processed products and what to take out of your diet, what to take out of your household. Stop buying what items are worse for you versus others. So today I created one on Parmesan cheese. Don't buy the refrigerated. Don't buy the shelf one in the jar. Buy fresh. Grate it. Only takes seconds. Buy a miniature plain and hand grate it. Better for you. No cellulose. No food starch. We can do better if we educate others and we learn. And if you can grow a little zucchini in the backyard, if you can grow your own tomatoes, one little thing helps, little at a time, because the institutions are not going to lose. They're going to win. We can't beat them, not unless Congress gets involved and assists us. And that's my goal right now. I have some things in the process to expand what I do. And whether I get 10,000 subscribers or 1,000, whatever it is, as long as I do my part and change the food industry one step at a time. And I do know that there's a lot of people that understand this and relate to it. And there's just too many people just don't know about it, and they rather sit there and eat their pizza. I mean, since when can you buy a pizza? Realistically, it's not cost effective for a $5 pizza. Seriously, these frozen pizzas that you buy, these nuggets that you buy, they're not good for you. Read the ingredients. They're not giving you real cheese on a processed pizza. They're not giving you real cheese on a fresh baked pizza they delivered to your home for $5 or $10. Think about it. If labor's at 15 and then fringe is at 30 or 40%, they're paying that one employee on the average $23 an hour, plus they're looking at, liability insurance, workman's comp, and everything else. And then they got to look at product costs. It doesn't add up. The costs. The product cost for a $5 pizza would have to be 50 cents. Electricity, water, the lease, and so on. You would literally have to make a $5 pizza for 50 cents or below. Open your eyes. This has nothing to do with politics, propaganda, conspiracy theories. This is the ugly truth, and this is what it is. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm not here to be funny. I'm here to tell the truth and focus on it. And there's a goal, and it's a pretty hard goal. The mountain is going to get harder and harder to climb, and the wind is going to blow even harder the more we all take that journey up that road to try to stop this or try to make a change. It's not easy, even for myself. The candy you're eating, the chocolates you're eating, they're not the same from the 80s and 70s. So many of the products that you're buying nowadays that you thought you had as a kid, it's not the same chocolate. Think about it. Kids think I'm drinking juice. I'm being healthier. I'm not having that soda. Those juices are pretty bad for you. The lemonade you buy in the store. Look at the chemicals. Anyways, I believe this is enough for today. Look for my shorts. I'm working on a few things with some people in the industry, from local farms to people that grow their own crops, that cultivate their own soil. It's a pretty big road out there. There are a lot of people in the US that are very passionate about organics. There are many people that really understand what veganism is, what vegetarian is, and how to eat it and how to go about it versus buying the process and all this stuff that costs you more nowadays than to buy a steak meal. Again, I have plans on moving soon, buying my own land and growing my own vegetables. And it's so proud every time I grow a vegetable and have my own crop. It's something that makes me proud that I did this. I understand what cultivation is. I understand what fertilizer is, and composting, and everything that comes with to it and with it. I mean, there's such a reward at the end of all this. So if we sit there and we deny it and we get angry and we don't do anything about it, well, guess what? You lost a day, you lost a lifetime, you lost a future for your children, your family. But here I am. And there are a lot more like me out there that want to do this. So stay tuned. There's more to come. There's more talks and a couple special engagements coming up soon that I will provide and load on YouTube and a couple social media outlets that I'm working on. Anyways, thank you. And thank you for listening. And please feel free to email me at Sustainable Culinary Solutions, suggestions, comments, all of it. I'm here. I'm open to it. I have a few people working for me that will probably pass it on to me. And if not, they'll answer you. And if you have any questions, they'll get to me that are immediately needed. But I'm here to help. And if you would like for me to come down and visit your operation, I'll be in New York next week working with a client on the restaurant. So if anything, feel free to contact me. I'm always there to answer. Thank you. Bye-bye.